So as we talked about in the last lesson, we can graph transformations of sine and cosine or sinusoidal functions, or we also call them periodic functions, by looking at the transformation equation and getting the following properties. So remember, the period, well, the regular period for sine and cosine is 2 pi, but if there's a value for b, we got to divide by it. The amplitude is going to be the value of a, but without the negative. That's why I put absolute value. The negative flips it over the midline. The midline is going to be the value of the number at the end. The minimum, we're going to take that midline value and subtract the amplitude without the negative. The maximum value, we're going to take that midline value and we're going to add the amplitude without the negative, if there is. And finally, the phase shift or horizontal shift, just like we did with other ones, is represented by h. Okay. So like I said, the only extra thing here in this question is we're asked to graph this, but we're asked only to show this portion from 0 to 6. Okay. What I would suggest you do when you see, if you see something like this, just ignore this until the very end. Graph it like you're just going to do everything. And then we'll put the restriction in after. So this here, first of all, midline, which would be what? 2. So therefore, 1, 2. Amplitude? 1, which means that the minimum is 1, and the maximum is 3. 2 plus 1 is 3. Period. It's going to be 2 pi divided by b, which in this case is pi over 2. And remember, that's going to be the same as 2 pi or 2 pi over 1 times the reciprocal of pi over 2, which is going to work out to 4. So this is 4. Which means the other notches are pretty easy to figure out in this one. This would be 2, this would be 1, so this would be 3. Okay. So now we want to, and we got to keep in mind, we're going to shift it 1 right. 1 unit right. Remember that. When I say 1, I don't mean 1 notch. I mean a value of 1, which happens to correspond to a notch in this one. So if we ignore this for the time being, it's a cosine graph, which starts up here to the mid, to the min, to the mid, and to the max. Again, I'm just going to put arrows because I haven't restricted it yet. Now, I'm going to put this one in red. This one tells me take those 5 points and move them all one to the right. So I got to make a notch at 5 so that I can move this one. So everything gets moved one to the right. Like so. I'm not going to put my arrows in because now we got to restrict it. You are asked to show the graph from 0 to 6. Domain of 0 to 6. Remember, domain is x values. So from x equals 0 to x equals 6. Right? So I have to extend this graph to the right and to the left. Well, here's 1. Where is the point going to be when I go back following this cycle? Not 0, midline. So I can stop there. Following this cycle, 5, it's at the max, so 6, it's back to the mid. There it is. And essentially what happens is that whatever this is going to be out of 4 marks, or yeah, probably out of 4 marks, you get 3 marks for just doing it regular. If you forgot about the integral, you get 3 out of 4. 4th mark is getting that integral right. Okay. Okay, example 2. And again, it's kind of a weird question, but sometimes you see a question like this. So you're going to have to be able to figure it out. So we've got a graph, a cosine graph, 3 cos pi over 8x plus 1. And we're told that it has a maximum point at 0, 4. That means it starts on the x-axis of 4. Okay. We're asked to find the next minimum point if we kept going to the right, and the next maximum point. What might be a good strategy? What might be a good strategy, like without worrying about this right now, what might be something good to do? Graph it. See what it looks like. Because then it'll probably be easier to see. So let's graph it. What's the mid? 1. The amplitude? 3. Which means that the min is 1 minus 3, or negative 2. And the max is 1 plus 3, or 4. Period is 2 pi divided by b, which is pi over 8, which is the same as 2 pi over 1 times 8 over pi. Pi's cancel, and you're left with 16. So just sketch that quickly. So I'm just going to do this. See, and there's no horizontal shift, there's no flip going on, so I don't need to worry about that. So I've got my midline at 1 here. I've got my min at -2. I've got my max at 4. Four notches, I've got 16. And it's a cosine graph, which means it starts at the max, which happens to be 0, 4. Well, if we sketch the first cycle, it's going to go to the mid, to the min, to the mid, to the max. So it's going to go like this. Well, these are the 2 points I'm looking for. It says the next min and the next max. So I need to figure out these notches here. What's the value of this notch? 8, because it's half of 16. What's the value of this notch? 4, because it's half of 8. So everything's going up by 4 on the x. So what coordinate is this? It's 8, -2. So that answers part A. What's the coordinates of this to answer part B? On the 4.